Well, joining us now on that part of this story is Andy Murie. He's the CEO of MAD Canada. Andy, thank you for joining us today.
Good morning, Michael. You're most welcome.
So obviously we have been counting down to this day. We've heard and knew that the Liberal government would introduce its essentially bill to legalize marijuana in this country. Ahead of that news conference, again, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, what is MAD hoping to hear out of it?
Well, we're hoping that the government puts in provisions to enable the police to enforce impairment by drugs just the same as we have for alcohol. So we're hoping for approval of oral fluid devices, per se levels for certain drugs, and also a comprehensive evidentiary test when somebody is above those per se limits. And so that's a key part that the federal government, in our opinion, must do prior to any legalized sales.
Now, we know when it comes to alcohol content in blood, you can do a breathalyzer test. You can blow into a device. It'll tell you how much blood content is in your blood. But is there an equally as reliable device when it comes to marijuana, THC?
Well, it's a two-step process. So the first step would be they would do a screener to see if you had drugs in your body, which can be done at roadside, and that's an oral fluid test. So that piece, and if you fail that, it means that you've been recently using a drug. And then they can take a second sample that would be sent to a laboratory to confirm the level of drugs in your body, and that's pretty commonplace. So it's going to be a little different than we do for alcohol, but the double set of tests, just like we do for alcohol, can be there, can be done. It's done in other places in the world, and we're very hopeful that these provisions are going to be included by the federal government going forward.
Is that more complicated, though? Because I'm thinking about trace amounts when it comes to THC. It seems that they hang around in the system much longer than, say, does alcohol.
Yeah. But the good thing about oral fluids is it doesn't pick up the metabolites, which is the traces that you're talking about. So it really means the psychoactive part, if we're talking about cannabis, is the piece that the oral fluid test picks up. And then the laboratory test would confirm that. So, I mean, people that, say that, I secondhand smoke or I used last night. Well, they're not going to fail this oral fluid test. But if they've recently, in the last 4 hours, have been using a drug, cannabis or other drugs, then it will pick up those drugs in the body.
So those types of roadside tests is one aspect that you're going to be looking out for today as the announcement is made. But I also want to talk about penalties here, because we did hear from the task force that looked into the legalization of marijuana. They talked about bringing about stiffer penalties for driving while under the influence of this drug. What are your expectations when it comes to penalties and punishment here?
Well, it's not so much about the punishment. We expect the penalties to be the same as alcohol, and so it's part of the criminal code that will be common across. What we need is the ability to deter drug-impaired drivers. So the fact that we have the test is a great deterrent, and the speed at which the police can do these things is also very important. And also the third part of it is, the courts currently, police have the ability to use a behavioral test to test for drugs. The courts and judges haven't really been warm and receptive to that type of evidence in criminal trials. And so now that they'll be able to present a laboratory result with an actual level and a per se level, and that's very similar to what judges are familiar with alcohol. I think that'll make it a lot easier to get convictions as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, we know that MAD in the past has put out awareness campaigns regarding driving while under the influence of a drug. In fact, we do have one example here. This is from 10 years ago. I'm going to ask our audience at home to watch it, and then we'll pick up our conversation again.
Don't be a fool. I'm begging you. Trust me. You are high.
So obviously an awareness campaign there from the past. But Andy, do you expect, or will you be planning to do more awareness campaigns as the legalization comes about?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and it's up to all stakeholders to get that message out there that, using cannabis, it's not a benign substance. It affects your ability to drive. So we need to get that message out there. We need to get messages out there about timing. So after you've used cannabis, how long should you wait? It depends on whether you've inhaled it or you've eaten it. And so we need to get public education messages out there. So the public has the same information that we've been doing for years on alcohol.
Do you actually think there'll be more people breaking the law with the legalization of marijuana?
Well, you know, I think Canada has a unique opportunity here. In other states in the U.S., which is mostly referred to on the drug-impaired side, they didn't really have time to do a comprehensive approach prior to legalization in those various states. And so they saw some, negative consequences after legalization. We're hoping that this government, long before July 1st, 2018, has all these measures in place. We've done all the campaigns. We've got the message out there that we really have a problem now, and hopefully these new tools will see a reduction in the number of drug-impaired drivers on the roadway.
Well, Andy, it is now 6:35 in Vancouver a.m., so thank you for the early start and joining us today.
You're most welcome. Have a good day. Thank you.
You too. And that is Andy Murie. He's the CEO of MAD Canada.